Bride left at the altar until a lonely cowboy said, "Then you're mine to protect." At the edge of a small human colony, a ceremonial hall sat alone atop a rocky ridge. Its glass walls reflected the blazing sunlight, and delicate banners fluttered in the wind. Today was supposed to be a day of joy, a celebration of love and hope. But for Dr. Elara Vance, it was turning into a nightmare. Elara stood at the altar, her hands gripping the smooth edges of the ceremonial podium. Her white gown, embroidered with simple silver patterns, clung to her body, soaked with sweat. She tried to ignore the dust clinging to her shoes, the scorching sun on her neck, and the buzzing of small desert insects. She had waited, prepared, and imagined this day for months. She had believed in love. She had believed in him, but he was gone, not just late, gone. Her fiancé, a tall man in a tailored suit, had disappeared into thin air. No note, no message, nothing. The guests whispered among themselves, their voices low but heavy with judgment. Some shook their heads. Some looked shocked. Some, secretly, looked amused. Elara's heart sank as her cheeks burned with embarrassment. Her best friend Mara approached cautiously, trying to hide her concern. "Elara, maybe he got delayed. Something must have happened." Elara shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "No, Mara, he left. He left me here." Her voice cracked. She took a deep breath, fighting to keep her composure. She wasn't used to feeling helpless. A scientist, a woman who had spent years exploring dangerous alien planets and studying unknown species, reduced to this, abandoned and humiliated. The desert wind picked up, blowing through the hall. Dust and tiny stones skittered across the floor. The banners snapped sharply, and Elara felt a strange shiver run down her spine. It wasn't just the desert that seemed alive. Something else was out there. She glanced at the horizon. Nothing but the endless stretch of golden dunes sparkling under the twin suns. And yet she felt a presence. Something human, perhaps, or maybe not. A sudden rumble reached her ears, soft at first, then growing louder. The vibrations ran through the sand and into her boots. She squinted, trying to see over the sun-drenched horizon. At first it looked like a distortion in the air, a heat mirage. But then she saw it, a figure, riding alone across the dunes. Dust rose behind him like smoke from a fire. The figure moved with confidence, controlling his mount with precise, easy gestures. It was a human. No alien she had ever studied could ride like that over the harsh desert terrain. He wore a wide-brimmed hat, a long coat flapping in the wind, and his boots were caked with sand. A rifle rested across his back, and a lasso swung loosely at his side. He looked like something out of an old Earth story, one of those frontier cowboys she had read about in history books. The murmurs of the guests died down as they noticed him. The stranger approached the hall at a steady pace. Even from this distance, Elara felt something strange, a sense of calm, of assurance that she hadn't felt since she stepped onto Aurora 7. The rider stopped a few meters from the ceremonial hall, letting his mount kneel in the sand. He swung down effortlessly, boots landing silently. Dust rose in little clouds around him, but he remained perfectly composed. His eyes, sharp and intelligent, scanned the hall, and then finally he spoke. "Looks like you're all alone," he said, his voice calm but strong. "Then you're mine to protect," the guests gasped. Mara stepped back in shock. Elara froze. For a moment she didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or be furious. Who was this man? Did he know what he was saying? Did he have any idea how inappropriate it sounded? But there was something in his eyes, something honest, something fearless. She noticed the faint scars along his hands, the sun-roughened skin, the careful way he held his stance. He was not here to mock her or to cause trouble. He was here to help. "Excuse me," Elara asked, her voice trembling slightly. He took a slow step closer, scanning the crowd. "I said, you're mine to protect. Nobody should be left alone in the desert like this, especially not a bride abandoned at the altar." Mara's eyes widened. Do you even know her?" she whispered. The cowboy gave a small, wry smile. "Not yet, but I intend to." Alara didn't know why, but she felt a flicker of hope. For weeks, she had believed in order and reason in careful planning. She had faced alien wildlife, survived harsh storms, and avoided political traps, but nothing had prepared her for this. Not humiliation, not fear, not the unknown. Yet looking at him, she realized she was not alone anymore. "All right," she said, her voice stronger now. "If you really mean that, then help me get out of here." He nodded, his expression unreadable but determined. "Then let's move." With that, he mounted his horse again, motioning for her to follow. Alara hesitated, then took a deep breath. She didn't know this man. She didn't even know if she could trust him. But something deep inside told her that this ride across the desert could change everything. The guests watched as they disappeared into the golden horizon. The hall, once a symbol of celebration, now stood silent, abandoned, and dusty. Aurora Seven's desert stretched endlessly, but for the first time, Alara didn't feel hopeless. She felt alive. As they rode, the cowboy spoke only once, his voice calm over the wind. "The desert is dangerous. Aliens, storms, rogue machines. Humans who think they can survive alone don't." Alara swallowed, her heart pounding. "I've survived worse." He glanced at her, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Then let's see if you can survive this." The twin suns dipped lower, casting long shadows over the dunes. Dust rose in their wake, and for a moment, Alara let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she had found a protector. Someone who could guide her through the wilds of Aurora 7, and perhaps even show her a side of humanity she had never truly understood. The ride was long, and the desert stretched endlessly before them, but with the mysterious cowboy by her side, Alara felt the spark of hope ignite inside her. She didn't know what lay ahead, but she knew one thing. She would no longer be left at the altar, not today, not ever. The adventure had begun. The desert stretched endlessly, golden waves of sand rolling under the twin suns. The wind howled softly, carrying the scent of heat and dust. Alara Vance held tightly to the reins of a borrowed hoverbike, following the cowboy across the dunes. His name, she had learned, was Jax Callahan. He moved with an easy confidence, unhurried, every step measured as though the desert itself obeyed him. Alara's heart still pounded from the events at the ceremonial hall. She tried to focus on the landscape, to absorb the alien beauty of Aurora 7. Jagged rock formations jutted from the sands like ancient monuments, and distant mesas glimmered in the heat. The air shimmered with mirages, and strange, fast-moving desert creatures occasionally dashed across their path. She had studied alien ecosystems for years, but nothing had prepared her for the raw and unforgiving life of the desert frontier. "You're quiet," Jax said, his voice calm, almost teasing. "Most brides abandoned at the altar scream or cry. You just sit there." Alara didn't answer immediately. Instead, she studied him. Jax was not what she expected from a desert wanderer. He wasn't wild-eyed or frantic. His eyes were sharp, blue like ice reflecting the sun. His hands were strong, scarred from hard work and long battles, yet his movements were careful and precise. Somehow, he seemed human in a way that made her feel safe, even though she barely knew him. I guess I'm in shock," she finally admitted. Her voice was soft, almost lost in the wind. "This is a lot to take in." Jax nodded, understanding. "The desert isn't forgiving to anyone, especially someone alone and unprepared. You need to learn to rely on yourself and on me. Temporarily, at least." He gave a half-smile, and she noticed how naturally his humor fit into the harsh landscape. Alara glanced at him, her curiosity growing. "You really protect people just like that? Strangers?" Jax shrugged. "Humans need humans. That's the only law out here that matters. If you're willing to survive, I'll help. Otherwise," he let the sentence hang. The warning was clear. In the desert, survival was not guaranteed. For hours they rode in silence, the desert unchanging yet alive. Alara studied her companion. Jax's presence was calming in an unpredictable world. He seemed to know every dune, every rock formation, every hidden trap in the sand. She realized he wasn't just a protector, he was a guide, a survivalist who had learned to turn the harshness of the world into a tool. "Why help me?" she asked finally, unable to hold back her question any longer. "You don't know me. Why risk your life?" Jax didn't answer immediately. He scanned the horizon, eyes narrowing against the glare of the suns. "I've seen too many people die because nobody helped them. People get left behind, abandoned. I can't fix the past, but I can try to change the future." Alara felt a strange warmth in her chest. The words were simple, yet they carried weight. For the first time that day, she felt that maybe she wasn't completely alone. Maybe humanity, after all, had something more than politics, money, and greed to offer. Maybe it had courage and loyalty and people willing to stand against impossible odds. They stopped at a narrow canyon to rest. Jax dismounted, checking his equipment and scanning the horizon. Alara took a cautious step off her hoverbike. The desert was quiet, but she had learned not to trust silence. Not on Aurora 7. "You can't just sit here and wait for trouble," Jax said, noticing her hesitation. "The desert doesn't forgive mistakes. If we don't move before nightfall, we'll be trapped by the cold and the predators." Alara nodded, swallowing her fear. The desert nights were infamous for plummeting temperatures and roaming creatures that were far less friendly than the day's alien wildlife. She had survived dangerous field research, but nothing like this. Every step, every choice mattered. They moved again, traveling through narrow valleys and over rocky outcrops. Along the way, Jax began to teach her survival techniques: how to read the sands for signs of movement, how to listen to the wind for warnings of approaching storms, how to make traps and barriers from limited resources. "You have to think like the desert," he explained, crouching near a cluster of rocks. "It doesn't care about you. You adapt or you die. That's the law out here." Alara listened intently, absorbing every word. She realized how much humans relied on each other in such conditions. Not because they were physically stronger, but because they were intelligent, creative, and resourceful. Her years of scientific training suddenly had a new application: life or death in the wild frontier. By late afternoon, they spotted smoke rising in the distance. A human settlement, small but thriving, clinging to life in the harsh desert. Jax's eyes brightened. "We're close. You'll have shelter, food, and safety for now." Alara felt a mix of relief and apprehension. "For now?" she asked, puzzled. "Out here, nothing lasts forever," Jax said, scanning the horizon with the keen instincts of someone who had survived countless dangers. "Aliens, rogue machines, storms, humans are always at risk, but humans can also fight. We adapt, we survive. That's the real strength." The settlement was simple but sturdy. Solar panels shimmered in the fading sunlight and small domed homes dotted the landscape. Humans worked openly, repairing machinery, tending small desert gardens, and keeping watch for dangers. Alara felt a strange pride. These were humans, ordinary, extraordinary, and alive in a place where most species would fail. Jax guided her to a small dwelling, a simple room with a bed, clean water, and basic supplies. "Rest here, eat, hydrate. You'll need your strength." Alara sat on the bed, feeling the exhaustion of the day sink into her bones. For the first time, she allowed herself to relax, even slightly. Jax left her briefly to check the settlement's perimeter, returning with a careful smile. "You've done well so far," he said. "Most people wouldn't have made it this far without panic or mistakes." Alara managed a small laugh. "I've never had a cowboy guide me across a desert before." Jax shrugged, looking toward the horizon. "Most people haven't had a cowboy guide them across this desert. But humans can survive anything if they work together." The night fell quickly, colder than Alara expected. Twin moons rose, casting silver light over the dunes. The settlement glowed softly, a beacon of life in a harsh and dangerous world. Ilara and Jack sat outside one of the small homes, sharing a simple meal. She watched the way he moved, careful, alert, yet relaxed. Every movement spoke of experience, every glance showed a mind always calculating risk and reward. He was human like her, but also extraordinary. "You're not from this settlement, are you?" Ilara asked, curious. Jack shook his head. "No, I roam, protect settlements, travel alone most of the time. Humans need someone out there looking for trouble before it finds them. That's me. Call it a calling." Ilara considered this. She had spent her life studying alien species, exploring strange planets, and working in sterile labs. She had never truly seen humans in their rawest, most resourceful form. Here, in the desert, humans were alive in a way that amazed her. They survive because they care for each other," she said quietly. "Because someone like you steps up." Jax nodded, accepting her words without arrogance. "Exactly. That's the real strength. Not technology, not politics, humans themselves, our courage, our creativity, our loyalty." A sudden noise in the distance made them both tense. Rocks shifting, footsteps, the sound of a hoverbike engine. But it was only a settlement patrol, checking for the night's safety. The tension eased, but Ilara noticed how quickly Jax assessed the threat, calculated the best course, and relaxed only when danger passed. The night stretched on. Ilara lay in the small bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything she had experienced in just one day. She had been abandoned, humiliated, and yet she had found hope. She had found a guide, a protector, and perhaps something more, a reminder that humans were capable of incredible things when pushed to the edge. Jack slept nearby, alert even in rest. His presence was reassuring, a living symbol of human resilience and courage. She felt a strange comfort, knowing that in the wild, dangerous desert of Aurora 7, someone truly understood the value of life and the importance of protecting it. By the time the twin suns rose again, painting the desert in shades of pink and gold, Ilara felt stronger. She was no longer just a scientist or a bride left at the altar. She was a human capable of survival, learning, and perhaps even adventure beyond anything she had imagined. And Jax, he was more than a cowboy. He was a reminder that humanity, even in its simplest, roughest form, could shine brighter than any alien technology or corporate power. The day ahead promised danger, challenges, and discoveries. But for the first time in a long while, Ilara felt ready. The desert adventure was only beginning. The desert of Aurora 7 stretched endlessly, but for Ilara Vance, it no longer felt empty. With Jax Callahan by her side, the sand seemed alive with purpose and danger. Each ridge, each dune told a story of survival, of creatures and humans who had learned to thrive against impossible odds. The twin suns blazed overhead, relentless in their heat, but the two travelers pressed on. Ilara had learned much from Jax. She could read the tracks of desert creatures, sense the approach of a sudden storm, and even predict where hidden water sources might lie. But nothing could prepare her for the real dangers of the wild. Aurora 7 was unforgiving, and every moment required attention, intelligence, and courage. They had been traveling for 2 days when the first challenge appeared. Dust clouds rose on the horizon, and Jax immediately recognized them. "Sand raiders," he said, his voice calm but alert. "Aliens mostly, though some humans sometimes join in. They attack settlements, travelers, anyone who looks easy to take." Ilara's heart pounded. "How many?" "Enough to be dangerous, not enough to be reckless. Stay close." As they approached, figures emerged from the haze, tall, thin creatures with elongated limbs, shimmering carapaces that reflected the sun. They carried strange, energy-based weapons that hummed ominously. Humans riding hoverbikes followed behind, armed with rifles, but their faces were twisted with desperation. Jax didn't hesitate. He guided Ilara behind a ridge of rocks, scanning for the best position. "We fight smart, not hard. Remember, humans survive because we think." Ilara nodded, adrenaline surging through her veins. Her scientific mind kicked in. She analyzed the terrain, the movements of the raiders, and the layout of the rocks around them. "We could use the canyon walls as a trap," she suggested. "Force them into the narrow pass. They won't have room to maneuver their bikes or weapons." Jax's eyes gleamed. "Good thinking. Let's do it." They set their plan into motion. Using small devices Jax had carried, they created minor diversions, noisemakers and light flares that confused the raiders. The alien raiders, overconfident and distracted, charged straight into the canyon. Once inside, their movement became restricted, and Jax and Alara used the rocks for cover. Alara held a makeshift energy blaster, her hands steady despite her fear. "Aim for the wheels," she instructed. "Stop the bikes and the rest will panic." One by one, the raiders' vehicles slowed, stumbled, and toppled into the canyon walls. The humans following them hesitated, unsure of what was happening, while Jax and Alara moved with precision, disabling the remaining attackers without unnecessary violence. When the dust settled, the raiders were retreating, and the humans looked at Jax with awe and gratitude. Alara's heart raced. She had survived, not just by hiding but by thinking and acting quickly. She felt a spark of pride and excitement she had never experienced before. "That worked," she said, still catching her breath. Jax nodded. "Humans survive because we adapt. We use our minds, not just our strength. You're learning fast." They continued their journey, the sun lowering and casting long shadows across the dunes. The desert was beautiful in its harshness, golden sands, jagged rocks, and the occasional oasis reflecting the twin suns. For a moment, Alara allowed herself to take it all in. She realized that life on Aurora 7, dangerous as it was, had a raw, exhilarating beauty that her studies and lab work could never match. As night fell, the desert became even more dangerous. Temperatures plummeted, and strange nocturnal creatures stirred. Jax guided Alara to a hidden alcove, where they could rest safely behind natural rock formations. They built a small fire using dry shrubs and carefully monitored its smoke to avoid attracting predators. "You need to sleep," Jax said. "Even a few hours can make the difference between life and death tomorrow." Alara lay down, staring at the stars. Aurora 7's night sky was breathtaking, dotted with constellations she didn't recognize. Yet among the alien stars, she saw the familiar patterns of human imagination, stories of heroes, survival, and courage. She realized that humans carried their strength not just in their bodies or weapons, but in their ability to dream, to hope, and to act in impossible circumstances. The next day brought new challenges. They encountered a vast expanse of quicksand-like terrain. One wrong step could mean death. Jax carefully tested each section with a long pole before crossing, while Alara followed closely, learning the subtle signs of unstable ground. Halfway across, a loud rumble shook the sand. A massive sandworm, easily 30 feet long, emerged, its jaws snapping and eyes glowing with alien intelligence. Alara froze. She had studied dangerous alien life in labs, but nothing prepared her for the sheer size and speed of this predator. "Move slowly," Jax instructed, his voice calm despite the looming danger. "Use the canyon walls if we can. Don't panic." Alara's heart raced, but she obeyed. They edged along the canyon's edge, the sandworm thrashing nearby. Jax threw a small flare behind it, drawing its attention just long enough for them to escape into a narrow rock pass. The worm slammed into the canyon walls, unable to follow, and finally retreated into the desert with a frustrated roar. Alara's legs trembled, but she couldn't stop herself from smiling. "We did it," she said, voice trembling. "We survived." Jax glanced at her, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Surviving is only the first step. Thriving, that's the real challenge. And you, Doctor Vance, are starting to understand that humans thrive because we never give up." As they continued, the desert revealed other wonders, strange plants that glowed faintly in the heat, alien birds with metallic feathers, and hidden springs where water pooled in crystal-clear basins. Alara began to document everything, her scientific curiosity merging with her survival instinct. She realized that humans didn't just survive through strength. They survived through observation, creativity, and learning from every encounter. On the third day, they reached a narrow valley surrounded by towering cliffs. Jax warned of bandits known to ambush travelers in these confined spaces. Alara's pulse quickened. She remembered the sand raiders, the sandworm, and every close call. Survival was not just about reacting. It was about anticipating danger, thinking ahead, and using one's environment wisely. Jax set up a series of clever traps using rocks, vines, and small devices he carried. "If they come, they won't expect this," he said, his tone almost casual but his eyes scanning the horizon constantly. Night fell and the temperature dropped sharply. They huddled together near a small fire, sharing a simple meal. Alara couldn't help but admire Jax's resourcefulness. He was human in every way, strong, intelligent, and skilled. But his greatest strength was his mind, his ability to think under pressure. "Why do you do this?" she asked quietly, looking at the stars. "Why risk your life for strangers?" Jax stared into the fire, the orange glow reflecting in his eyes. "Because humans are worth it. Because if we don't protect each other, who will? Technology, politics, wealth, they mean nothing if humans can't survive. And I've seen too many die alone because nobody cared. I won't let that happen." Alara felt a lump in her throat. She realized that this was the essence of humanity, not just surviving, but protecting, helping, and inspiring each other. Jax was a living example of everything she had ever admired in human history: courage, loyalty, and intelligence. The next morning, they were greeted by a breathtaking sight, a hidden oasis nestled between cliffs. Water shimmered in the morning light and strange but beautiful plants grew along the edges. Birds with bright plumage and alien insects hummed softly, filling the air with life. This is incredible," Alara whispered, kneeling to touch the water. She realized that humans didn't just survive, they created pockets of life in impossible places. They adapted, learned, and thrived where others would fail. Jax nodded, a small smile on his lips. "Humans do what they must. That's why we're special. That's why we matter." Alara looked at him, gratitude and admiration shining in her eyes. She knew that this journey across the wilds of Aurora 7 had already changed her. She was no longer just a scientist or a bride abandoned at the altar. She was a survivor, a learner, and perhaps someone who could see humanity's true strength for the first time. The desert adventure was far from over. Challenges, dangers, and wonders awaited them. But for the first time, Alara felt truly alive. And with Jax by her side, she knew that whatever came next, they could face it together. The wilds of Aurora 7 stretched before them, full of danger, mystery, and life. And Alara Vance, once abandoned and alone, had finally found her place, not just in the desert, but among the humans who had taught her what it meant to survive, to think, and to endure. The journey continued, and humanity's spirit burned brighter than the twin suns above. Lara Vance and Jax Callahan had finally reached the edge of the settlement, a small human colony tucked between jagged cliffs and rolling dunes. For the first time in days, Alara felt a sense of relief. The humans here were hardy, resourceful, and armed, prepared for the harsh realities of Aurora 7. But Jax's sharp eyes scanned the horizon, his posture tense. Something was coming, and he knew it. "They're close," he said quietly, pointing toward the distant dunes. "Aliens, big ships, advanced tech. This isn't a raid, it's a full strike." Alara's pulse quickened. "How many?" "Enough to make this dangerous." "But humans," he paused, looking at her with a determined gleam in his eyes. "Humans survive because we fight smart, and we're going to prove it." The settlement's inhabitants were quick to mobilize. Farmers, engineers, and miners worked alongside seasoned fighters, transforming the small colony into a fortress in a matter of hours. Makeshift barricades were erected using metal scraps, energy shields were activated, and defensive positions were taken. Children were sent to hidden shelters, while elders assisted with communication and planning. Alara watched in awe as Jax coordinated the defenses. He moved from group to group, giving instructions, checking equipment, and inspiring courage. Every action was precise, efficient, and full of purpose. She realized once again that humans didn't rely solely on strength. They relied on intelligence, cooperation, and ingenuity. "They're here," shouted a lookout from the top of a cliff. A fleet of alien ships appeared on the horizon, sleek and menacing. Their hulls shimmered with unknown metals, weapons glinting in the twin suns' light. The aliens were fast, intelligent, and well-equipped, but the humans didn't falter. Jax handed Alara a small device. "You'll help me. We need to disrupt their systems. It's risky, but I trust you." Alara hesitated. "I've never done anything like this before." "You have a mind sharper than anyone here. That counts more than experience." Taking a deep breath, she activated the device. Using her knowledge of alien technology, she created minor disruptions in the enemy's communications and navigation systems. Ships faltered, their formation breaking apart. The aliens were clever, but humans were unpredictable, and that unpredictability worked in their favor. The battle began. Energy blasts lit the sky, ricocheting off shields and slamming into rock walls. Explosions kicked up clouds of sand, and the air vibrated with the power of alien weaponry. But the humans were not defeated. Using clever tactics, they forced the alien ships into narrow canyons, where their size and speed became disadvantages. Alara observed with awe as ordinary humans, farmers, miners, mechanics, fought with courage and ingenuity. They used traps, decoys, and improvised weapons to outsmart the technologically superior aliens. One group lured a ship into a canyon where the walls collapsed under its weight, destroying it without a single human casualty. Jax fought alongside them, his skill and leadership making a clear difference. He moved with precision, protecting those around him and taking calculated risks to turn the tide. Alara found herself moving with him, coordinating defenses and anticipating enemy maneuvers. For the first time, she felt the full force of human resilience, not just the ability to survive, but the ability to triumph against overwhelming odds. Hours passed. The battle raged, with the twin suns casting long shadows over the desert. Alara's hands ached from operating her device, but she continued, driven by determination and a sense of responsibility. Every success, every small victory, reminded her of what humans were capable of. "They're retreating," shouted a lookout. Alara and Jax both looked up as the alien ships pulled back, disrupted and damaged by the humans' clever tactics. Cheers erupted among the settlers, but there was no time to celebrate. "Stay alert," Jax warned. "They may return, and next time they'll be smarter." Alara nodded, exhausted but exhilarated. She realized that humans were extraordinary not because of their technology or physical strength, but because of their intelligence, creativity, and courage. They adapted to every challenge, learned from every encounter, and refused to be defeated. The aftermath of the battle left the settlement battered but intact. Humans moved quickly to repair structures, tend to the wounded, and secure supplies. Alara helped wherever she could, using her scientific knowledge to stabilize minor injuries and assist with repairs. She worked alongside engineers, farmers, and fighters, all united by a single purpose: survival. Jax watched her from a distance, a proud smile on his face. "You've done well," he said quietly. "You've learned quickly and you've helped save lives today." Alara smiled back, feeling a sense of pride she had never experienced. I couldn't have done it without you." Jax shook his head. "No, you did it yourself. I just guided you." "That's what humans do. We guide, we support, we fight, and we survive." That night the settlement gathered to celebrate their victory. Fires were lit, and the air was filled with laughter, music, and stories of bravery. Alara sat with Jax, watching the humans around them. She realized that the desert, dangerous as it was, had revealed the true strength of humanity. "They're remarkable," she said softly. Jax nodded. "Humans always are. We adapt, we fight, and we protect each other. That's why we matter." Alara felt a deep sense of connection, not just to Jax but to every human in the settlement. She had been abandoned, humiliated, and scared just days before. Now she was part of something greater, a living testament to the resilience, courage, and ingenuity of her species. The twin moons rose over the desert, casting silver light on the settlement. Alara and Jax sat in quiet reflection, knowing that the battle was only one of many challenges to come. But for the first time, Alara felt truly confident in the strength of humans and in her own ability to face the unknown. The night was filled with a sense of hope and determination. Humans had defended their home, adapted to impossible circumstances, and proven that even in the harshest environments, they could survive and thrive. Alara realized that this was the true heart of humanity: courage, intelligence, and the unwavering will to protect and endure. Jax placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Rest now. Tomorrow we continue the journey. There's more out there to see, more to survive, and more to protect." Alara nodded, feeling the weight of exhaustion and triumph. She lay down under the stars, surrounded by humans who had fought together, laughed together, and survived together. She realized that being human meant more than strength or skill. It meant community, ingenuity, and the courage to face any challenge. As she drifted into sleep, the twin moons shone brightly above. The desert was quiet for now, but she knew it would never truly be safe. And yet, for the first time, she felt ready. With Jax by her side and the strength of humanity behind her, she could face whatever the universe had to throw at her. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new dangers, new adventures, but Alara Vance, once abandoned at the altar, was no longer alone. She was human, resilient, intelligent, and unyielding. And in the wilds of Aurora 7, humanity had won, if only for a moment. The desert of Aurora 7 was calm that morning, but Alara Vance knew it was only the quiet before the storm. The settlement had survived the first wave of alien attacks, but Jax Callahan's sharp eyes never left the horizon. He had taught her that danger was never far away on this frontier. And yet, for the first time, Alara felt ready to face it. Humans were extraordinary, she realized. Not because of weapons or technology alone, but because of courage, creativity, and unity. Today, she would see that strength tested and proven once again. The twin suns rose, casting long golden shadows over the dunes. Alara and Jax stood atop a ridge, surveying the settlement below. Smoke rose from repaired barricades, children laughed cautiously in the distance, and settlers moved with purpose, preparing for the inevitable next attack. "They'll come again," Jax said quietly, his tone serious. "And this time they'll bring more ships, more weapons. We need a plan." Alara nodded. "Then let's make one. We've learned a lot already. We can anticipate them, set traps, and use the terrain to our advantage." Jax's eyes brightened. "Exactly. Humans survive because we think. Let's show them what we can do." Over the next few hours, the settlement transformed into a battlefield of intelligence and strategy. Settlers worked together to create decoys, camouflage trenches, and automated traps using salvage technology. Engineers rigged solar-powered energy shields to cover vulnerable areas. Farmers and laborers moved supplies efficiently, while fighters trained others in rapid combat techniques. Alara, using her scientific knowledge, helped optimize the traps and shields. She suggested modifications to existing defenses, making them more effective against the alien technology. She realized that survival was not just about courage. It was about problem-solving, adaptability, and using every resource wisely. By midday, a rumble shook the desert. The alien fleet appeared on the horizon, larger and more intimidating than before. Ships glinted in the sunlight, their weapons primed, and energy fields pulsed ominously. The humans didn't flinch. They had prepared, adapted, and learned from the last encounter. Jax mounted his hoverbike, signaling to the defenders. "Remember what I taught you. Work together, think ahead, and never panic. Humans survive because we outsmart the odds." The battle began. Alien ships descended rapidly, firing energy beams and launching drones. But the humans were ready. Decoys lured the ships into narrow canyon passages, where their size became a disadvantage. Traps triggered rockfalls and electromagnetic pulses, disabling several drones and small ships. Ilara operated a remote device she had modified, sending signals that confused the alien systems and caused minor malfunctions. She felt a surge of satisfaction as one of the larger ships stumbled and crashed into the canyon walls. From her vantage point, Ilara could see the settlement working like a single organism. Engineers repaired shields in real time. Farmers and laborers supplied ammunition and equipment. Fighters coordinated movements, anticipating alien attacks. Every human had a role and every action mattered. Jax fought alongside the defenders, moving with precision, guiding and protecting. He intercepted enemy fire, helped repair a critical shield, and coordinated counterattacks. Ilara realized that humans were extraordinary not because of their strength, but because they worked together, combining intelligence, courage, and determination. Hours passed, and the battle raged fiercely. The aliens were clever, adjusting their tactics, but humans were unpredictable. Every trap, every clever maneuver, every small victory built on the last. Ilara felt a deep sense of pride, not just in herself, but in the resilience and ingenuity of her species. Finally, after relentless effort, the alien fleet began to falter. Ships retreated, their formations broken, systems disrupted, and morale shaken. The humans had defended their home, not through sheer force, but through strategy, teamwork, and ingenuity. The twin suns set, casting golden light over the victorious settlement. Cheers erupted, and the survivors gathered to celebrate. Ilara and Jax stood together, watching the humans they had fought alongside. She felt a sense of connection, admiration, and gratitude that went beyond words. "You did it," Jax said quietly, turning to her. "We did it. Humans survive, adapt, and triumph. That's what we do." Ilara smiled, exhausted but exhilarated. "I've never seen anything like this." "Humans were amazing," Jax nodded. "Not amazing because we're strong, but because we care. Because we think, create, and fight for each other. That's why we matter in this galaxy." As night fell, the settlement gathered around a large fire. Stories of bravery were shared, laughter echoed through the desert, and the air was filled with a sense of unity and triumph. Ilara sat quietly, reflecting on everything she had learned. She had been abandoned, scared, and alone, but now she understood the true essence of humanity. Humans survived not because they were the fastest, the strongest, or the most technologically advanced, but because they were intelligent, adaptable, and fiercely loyal to each other. They could face impossible odds and triumph where others would fail. Jax sat beside her, his presence reassuring. "You've grown a lot since we started this journey," he said. "You've learned to survive, adapt, and think like a human in the wild. That's worth more than any lab experience or academic knowledge." Ilara laughed softly. "I suppose being abandoned at the altar has its benefits." He grinned. "Sometimes life throws you into the wild to teach you what you never knew you needed to learn." The night air was cool, and the twin moons reflected off the sand in silver light. Ilara realized that she no longer feared the unknown. She had seen the strength of humans in action, how courage, intelligence, and cooperation could overcome even the most advanced alien threats. In the days that followed, the settlement rebuilt fully. The humans reinforced their defenses, shared knowledge with each other, and prepared for future challenges. Alara helped with planning, research, and education, ensuring that everyone could learn from the experience. She had become part of something bigger, a human network of strength, intelligence, and resilience. Jax and Alara rode together across the desert, scouting new dangers and ensuring the safety of nearby outposts. She had learned to anticipate threats, improvise solutions, and trust in the ingenuity of humans. Each day reinforced the lesson she had discovered on this journey. Humanity's true strength lay in its courage, creativity, and ability to protect and inspire each other. One evening, as the twin suns set in the distance, Jax turned to her. "You know, I never thought I'd find someone who could keep up with me out here, but you've proven yourself." Alara smiled. "I couldn't have done it without you." He shook his head. "No. You did it yourself. I just guided you. That's what humans do. We help, we support, and we survive together." The stars emerged in the sky, shimmering like diamonds over the desert. Alara felt a deep sense of belonging, not just to the settlement but to the human race itself. She had been left behind, abandoned and scared, but she had discovered a truth that no isolation or danger could erase. Humans were resilient, ingenious, and capable of incredible feats when united. The desert of Aurora 7 stretched before them, vast, wild, and beautiful. Danger still lurked in its shadows, but Alara no longer feared it. With Jax by her side and humanity's strength behind her, she knew that no challenge was too great. Together, they rode toward the horizon, twin suns painting the sand in shades of gold and red. Alara felt hope, courage, and determination rise within her. Humanity had triumphed not by chance but by choice, through courage, intelligence, and unity. And as the wind carried their dust into the endless desert, she realized something profound. Humans were not just survivors. They were pioneers, thinkers, and protectors. They could face any threat, adapt to any challenge, and shine in even the darkest corners of the galaxy. Alara Vance, once abandoned at the altar, had found her purpose. She was a witness, a participant, and a protector of humanity's incredible spirit. And as she rode beside Jax, she knew that together, they could face anything the universe had to offer. The twin suns set, the moons rose, and the humans of Aurora 7 celebrated their victory, ready for whatever came next. In the vast expanse of the desert, their courage, ingenuity, and unity shone brighter than any alien technology. Humanity had triumphed. Humanity had survived. And humanity would endure.